Welcome back to another episode of Twisted Metal Companion. I'm Peter. You guys, I'm so excited about today's guest. We have Johnno Wilson, who plays Dave, one of my new favorite characters from season two. How you doing, Johnno?
I'm great, Peter. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thank you for finding some time to fit me in your schedule, yeah, to talk about Twisted Metal. But upon my research, you have such an incredible journey, story, and acting wasn't even something you thought about doing early on. And so I understand that you come from a family with a lot of humor. Can you talk a little bit about that and where you come from?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I grew up in Massachusetts. It's funny because when I was little, I did really want to be an actor.
Okay.
After I moved to LA and started pursuing this career, I went home to visit, and my mom was like, "I found a journal from the first grade. You have to read the first page of the journal." And I opened up the journal, and in it, I was 7 years old, 6 years old, and in it, I had written, "When I grow up, I want to be an actor and live in Los Angeles because that's where all the acting jobs are." So I was very practical and pragmatic, but also had a dream,
Mhm.
um but as I got older, I played sports and I did pretty well in school, and I went to Georgetown University, which I loved my time there. I'm still, I still do golf trips with my roommates from college, and I did like little things with the TV station at Georgetown. But being there, everyone is very intelligent, very well rounded, and they have this mindset of like, I'll do A in college, I'll get B internship, that'll lead to C job, D, I'll make this amount of money before 30. Everyone's very planned out. And so I really didn't see a career in entertainment as like a true possibility. And when I was in middle school, my best friends and I would always do like celebrity impressions, and I'd do impressions of our teachers, and we'd carpool to school together, and I would be, doing bits, and one of my buddies, Pete, would give me scenarios, and then I'd improvise them, and we just did that naturally as kids. And we talked about, in the sixth grade, Pete was like, when we grow up, you'll be on SNL and I'll be a writer. And that was like, this pipe dream. And when I graduated college, I was working in consulting for a couple years. And during that time, my buddy Pete had moved to LA, and he was like, "I'm going to be a screenwriter." He went to Harvard. He's like the smartest guy I know. It's like, "I'm just going to try to be a screenwriter now," after working like pharmaceuticals and doing chemistry. He was like a chemist. And I was like, maybe I could do that. I was doing like little things on the side of my consulting job. I was one of the stars of the sexual harassment training for the
For the
Army.
army.
And
Mhm.
I was like, maybe I could do this after that. And Pete and I talked, and he was like, let's just give it a go. You got a good education. You could fall back on something or go to business school if it doesn't work out. But like, why not move out here? And I told my parents and my brother that. My brother's name is Pete too. And immediately they were like, this is what we've always thought you should do, but we were never going to push you into it. So I quit my job and moved out to LA. And Pete Wood, my buddy from growing up, and I were living out here. And I started doing the groundlings, and that led to more things. And fast forward 14 years, and here we are.
So we'll go back a little bit, but when you're talking about the Groundlings, you never crossed over with like Patty Guggenheim, did you? I don't know when she
She
started.
so she was there, but I did the Sunday Company. So she wasn't in the Sunday Company when I was in the Sunday Company, but we knew each other at the Groundlings and would do like the random other shows together and stuff. So I knew Patty really well. It was like when I got Twisted Metal, it was really nice because I knew she had already started filming. So I knew at least one person. And then Lisa Gilroy and I were buddies. And so it was funny because we were shooting a short together, Lisa and I, and she was like, yeah, I'm going to be gone for a couple months, and I'm shooting this show Twisted Metal. And I was like, oh. And like 3 days later, I got an audition for Dave, and I did it. And before even hearing back, I was texting with Lisa, and I was like, I got a weird feeling I'm going to book this show. And then the next week, we were like doing we were on a Zoom call for a stand-up class we were taking, and I was like, I'm flying out to Toronto on Tuesday, and she was like, is it the 11 a.m. flight? And I was like, yep, I'll see you in the lounge for Air Canada. So it was nice, like going into this, knowing people. And then one of my buddies, Haley Joel Osment, I was supposed to play in a golf tournament with him. And he was like, and I was like, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to Toronto. And he was like, oh, what are you shooting? I said, Twisted Metal. He said, one of my best buddies is in that show. I was like, who? He was like, Mike Mitchell. I was like, well, I have like all my scenes with him. So Mike, like, and I started texting, and he was like, he was just so great. When I got to Toronto, he was like, let's go grab dinner and get to know each other. So, and same with Taj. Like Taj, when I first got there, he was just, everyone was so welcoming. And, the camaraderie started before we even started shooting, which was amazing.
That is amazing. And it always starts at the top, right? That's what they say. And MJ is such
100%.
a, yeah, such a great guy.
Yeah.
You mentioned like I've heard you share that story about reading that page. In first grade. My daughter's in first grade right now. And matter of fact, this weekend I'm gonna take her to watch her first musical, the Lion King
Ooh.
musical. So I hope that sparks a little something because I see like a
Yeah.
little bit of performer in her.
Sure.
Um, Now, do you remember like kind of your earliest maybe inspirations to to want to be an actor? So it sounds like you had that early on, but do you remember any of those early inspirations?
Yeah, I mean, first, like my dad, so it's just me and my brother, and my dad would do these things where he would like have a night just like dad and one of the sons, just to like, have a nice little bonding experience. And he'd bring us like baseball games and stuff. And one night he brought me to see, I was like dying to see Jurassic Park. And I was like, on all my notebooks, like I was drawing the emblem of Jurassic Park. I was like obsessed. I was obsessed with it. I would like take the actual book by Michael Crichton out from the library and try reading it and being like, this is 400 pages. I can't believe I'm going to get through this. And my dad took me to see Jurassic Park in the theater, and my mind was blown just of like movie making and being so engrossed in a film. And there was that. And then, I grew up watching reruns of SNL, the Adam Sandler, David Spade, Phil Hartman, Chris Farley days, and also Ace Ventura. Like Ace Ventura blew my mind. Jim Carrey was like, I loved Jim Carrey. My dad and mom helped me put together a video of me doing Ace Ventura, and I was like, it was like me doing an impression of Ace Ventura, but also pitching Jim Carrey on me being his son in Ace Ventura 2. So like I remember there was like always that stuff kind of percolating in my brain. So yeah, I've always loved movies. I've always loved movies.
I think they eventually did one with like the son of Ace Ventura or something like that.
Oh yeah,
I
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like in Living Color, was that
Yeah,
something?
yeah. My parents loved In Living Color. They thought that show was so funny. I really was like, Comedy Central played reruns of SNL all the time. So that's what I watched that a lot. I watched the stand up of Dana Carvey and Paula Poundstone and Margaret Cho. And I like, they were always on like Comedy Central, like Blend or something. Like it was this show, something like that. And I thought they were hilarious. I loved them. So yeah, it was just like Comedy Central was huge for me growing up. I would watch it all the time.
Right. And so I don't want to miss anything. And so at what point was it did you do like I'm misremembering the title. It's like Johnno and Mike Try?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I did a little sketch show after doing the Groundlings. It was really, I auditioned twice for SNL. So they flew me out. I did a showcase, and then they flew me out uh to test twice. And I remember like after the very first test, I had my stuff down because I was doing these characters with the Groundlings. I felt like they were very strong. I was doing a little stand up at the time. So I had these like micro impressions that I would just rattle off. And after I did the first test, I walked off the stage and the guy that was operating the camera like slapped me hard on the back and he was like, "That was great, man." And I really was like, "All right, where am I going to live in New York? Like this is it. Like I'm doing it." And I called my buddy Pete, who I grew up with. I was like, "I'm actually going to be on SNL. I know it." And then they called me like 2 weeks later and they were like, "All right, we want you to come back and we want to see all new stuff. We'll see that like Dare cop that you did, and we'll see Sylvester Stallone again, and but we want to see like new stuff." And I was like, "Well, I already gave you all my A stuff. I gave him like 6 characters and 12 impressions or something." I was like, so I went back out and did it again. And that time I was like, yeah, I still crushed it, but maybe the character of the gremlin at an HOA meeting wasn't the strongest choice. And I obviously did not get SNL. So after that, I was like, how can I still be creative and make things? So I was just like putting sketches out. And then that ended up leading to talking to Ethan Stern, who was not my manager at the time,
Mm.
and he was just like, I knew him through one of my best friends out here, Teddy Bressman. And he was like, Johnno, you should really just get on TikTok. It's starting to blow up. Do your impressions. You'll start to get more recognition from that. And I was like, I don't want to be known for doing impressions, but I started doing it and it really led to a lot of love on TikTok and Instagram. And it's funny because I met with the casting people at NBC after shooting Twisted Metal, and they were like, we watched all your impressions, like we love that stuff. And I think it, even in ways that I don't know, I think that just putting myself out there in those ways really helped. Like I did an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Jeff Schaefer, the director of the episode I was in and like co-creator and everything, he was like, "Dude, I really wish that Vince Vaughn was here today because your Vince Vaughn is more Vince Vaughn than Vince Vaughn." So it was really just like, and doing like that stand-up class with Lisa. I'm always trying to do things that may not have that Georgetown A to B to C thing. It's more like, how can I stretch my creative muscles and work them out in ways that I might not see the what the results are going to be. Just like keep pushing myself in different ways, and who knows how it might pay off.
Yeah, so this is really interesting because you didn't do at least from what I remember hearing you say, you didn't really do like acting or theater in high school, right? Like you did sports, and so I've seen that you've done like stand up and things of this nature. Where did that confidence come from, do you think?
Honestly, I think there's I've kind of always had it in me. I think like if you're going to be an actor, there has to be some intangible part of you that knows that you can do it. Um, and growing up, I was doing Jimmy Stewart impressions for my extended family on holidays, like at Christmas at the end of the night, like all my uncles and aunts would be in a room and I'd walk in and I'd be like, all right, here are my impressions. So I would like kind of perform from a very young age. And I remember being in elementary school and I don't know what the hell this play was, but I remember I was like the lead in the play and I was playing a mouse and I was in the 4th grade and I just felt so good doing it, performing, being in front of people. And I remember soon after that, I was like walking through the halls and like girls in the 7th grade were like, "Hey, Johnno." And I remember being like, "Whoa, this is where it's at, baby."
No, well, your name, Johnno. When I first saw it, and like the first images of what we would learn who's Dave, and I don't remember if it was like Entertainment Weekly or whatever it was, but it had the credits, so it had like Johnno Wilson, as Dave and things. Where does your name come from? Like when I first saw it, I even thought it was like Yano, just because,
Sure.
yeah, you're the first Johnno I've ever met.
Yeah. Um, it's funny because my name on my birth certificate is John, John. Canavan is my middle name, which is my grandmother's maiden name, and Wilson. And my parents were like, well, we want to name him John. That's a strong name. My grandfather's name was John. But my dad was like, John Wilson is just too boring of a name. And he grew up with a guy who was Irish, like off the boat Irish, and his name was Johnno, Johnno. And my dad was like, when I was born, he was like, we're either going to call him Jack or Johnno. I think Johnno is just a fun name. And my mom was like, yeah, we don't know anyone else named Johnno. And so it was just like, I don't know if my parents have ever called me John. It's been
Mm.
Johnno since day one. And then I was Johnno through school. And, in a weird way, I feel like your name kind of tells people who you are and gives you a sense of identity. And yeah, like Jono just totally feels like it fits my personality.
Yeah, yeah. It's that thing where like I have a few kids, and I remember when one of them was born, like the nurse, she was like, "Oh, that's a really great name. Like he's gonna be someone important." So I feel like your parents may have felt the same way. Like this name is gonna pop. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be something.
Yeah, maybe it's good when your parents have a little ego, you
Yeah,
know, to kind
yeah.
of pass on to you.
Yeah. Speaking of your parents, it sounds like they were very supportive of you moving across the country
Yeah.
to pursue this dream. So that's always important too. Um, so the one of my favorite, I didn't get a chance to watch all of the Jono and Mike try, but I think one of the ones that really stood out to me was the one with the ghost.
Yeah.
Where she thinks that, like, Jono's the, I don't know if you're playing like a different version of you, but she thinks that they're like together, and it's well edited. It looks like you edited it yourself as well.
Yeah.
So you kind of like self-made too. You kind of teach yourself like all these different skills to really put yourself out there.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about editing or directing or any of that stuff, but I really just like, I also had no money at the time. So I was like, I'm just going to buy Final Cut and figure this out. And I think editing is, you hear so often that the final product is made in the edit. And I think like having comedic timing is essential if you're editing comedy because, a split second can make a joke land or not. And so I really just dove into it and played around with it. And I would find cuts that like wouldn't necessarily work, and then I would switch, like I'd move a different part that was from later in a sketch and I'd bring it up, and then I would kind of like shape the story of each sketch in the edit. Even if I'd written something that may have been a little different, I'd realize like actually this works better, and I'd kind of like finesse it in that way. So yeah, that was really really helpful learning experience.
Yeah, and I think that's also what makes your TikTok like impressions and stuff like really pop as well, is the editing, the really intricate cuts and stuff like that. When you're going back and forth, not only just two people, three people sometimes,
Yeah.
and so you're very very impressive. Like I think you saw the Friends clip I did of Twisted Metal, like Twisted Metal
Yeah.
Friends. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that took me forever. And so after doing that, I was really proud of it, but I was like, I don't know if I ever want to try to cut something like that again. It
Totally.
was,
It's you can find yourself editing something that is a minute long and it will take you an hour or more
yeah.
because you can always tweak it. You can always tweak it. And I frankly like I like editing because of that. You just kind of can go into your own tunnel of just trying different things out and moving things around, and then be like, it's actually better the first way I did it, and then moving it back. And it's like putting a puzzle together. It's funny because like I was always really good with math growing up in school, and I feel like and I like that because when you figured out the answer in a math equation or a math problem, you're working through it, and then when everything fits together, it's so satisfying. And that's the
Mhm.
exact same feeling I would get if I was editing something together.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, anybody that's tried making reels and stuff like that, it's very, very time consuming. I know like a an easy answer for a lot of actors, when asking about being starstruck. It's like, well, trying to be professional and stuff like that. But you've been around some quite a bit of people. I mean, Larry David, you mentioned Curb, but you
Yeah.
have this really great story when you were a caddy and meeting Will Ferrell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That was
so, one of those instances.
yeah, that was I probably lived here for like 2 years, and I was caddying at Los Angeles Country Club. And one of the members was like, knew that I was pursuing an acting career, and he requested me to caddy. And I came up from the caddy yard, and he said, "That's the bag you're taking." And it was this big orange bag, a Puma bag, and it said Will Ferrell on it. And I was like, "Oh my God." And I thought, okay, because obviously I'd grown up, everybody in comedy has grown up on Will Ferrell. He's like greatest of all time. And I was like, all right, this guy, he just wants to play around a golf. So I'm not going to talk about the fact that I'm in the groundlings and I'm sending a tape to SNL. I'm just going to be a good caddy for him. And around like the 12th hole, Will, who was so nice from the jump, he was like, on the 12th hole, he was like, "So what else are you doing out here?" And I was like, "Well, I'm pursuing an acting career." He's like, "Oh, that's so great." Like he was so excited for me. It's like how many people have told him this stuff. And it's like, "You doing comedy or drama?" I'm like, "I'm doing comedy." He's like, "Oh, you studying anywhere?" I was like, "I'm studying at the ground." He's like, "That's where I studied." I was like, "Yeah, I know." And he was like, "Listen, the rest of the round, ask me any questions you want. Don't feel shy, whatever." And so we chatted for the next 6 holes. And at the end of the round, gave me a nice solid tip, and he said, he like held me by the shoulders, and he goes, "Listen, you're throwing darts at a dartboard. Just keep throwing them, and they're gonna start to stick." And I remember being like, "Whoa, this is such a moment." And fast forward a few years, and I was doing this show called "I Love That for You," and Molly Shannon was on the show, and she, again, another amazingly wonderful person. And Vanessa Bayer, who created the show and starred in it, I told her the Will Ferrell story, and she said, "You should tell Molly that story because they're still such good friends." And so I told Molly the story, and she, just so being like, "Oh my God, like Will would not say that to you if he didn't think you had something. Like he really must have believed in you. He really must have." And I was like, I caddied for him. There's no way he thought, "Oh, this guy's gonna be a star or whatever." And then like a week went by, and Molly sent me a text, and she was like, "I was with Will last night, and I told him the story you told me. He says he remembers it, and he says, 'Congratulations, keep going.'" Like that was such a like full circle moment of, wow, this is I'm like in the game. This is so cool.
Yeah, that's extremely amazing. Also, Perry St. James, love that
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it too, for research. Yeah, it's like I'm not on TikTok,
Mhm.
so like I didn't see your impressions. And honestly, the first bits of Dave was the very first time I've come across you. But
Sure.
researching you, I'm like, oh, and a lot of it was I was covering Cobra Kai ever since 2018. So
Yeah.
a lot of things that came out in between then, complete blind spots for me. I had tunnel vision. Now that show's over, Twisted Metal is like that's all I focus on every
Yeah.
night, researching, watching Johnno Wilson clips, Johnno
Yeah.
Wilson, episodes. And so that's kind of what I do. And so, but what I'm getting to is like the stuff that I watch. I'm like, if I was watching this stuff before, I would have been like, dude, I'm gonna follow this guy. He's like everything you do
Oh,
is so good, so funny, and they're
thank
all
you.
so different. Yeah,
Thanks,
um,
man.
I think Perry and Dave might be kind of not too dissimilar. They're both cooks in a way,
Yeah.
butchers, but yeah, I really love those two characters, so I can't wait to. I know you got like several things in either in pre or post right now, and
Yeah.
and I'm super excited to catch any of those. So the TikToks, you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. You started out to kind of get yourself out there a little bit, right? And so because I know TikTok can go like super viral. Who is somebody that's a big flex for you in terms of a follow? You know, you're like, hey, such and such follows me on TikTok or whatever. Just
You
kind of
know,
curious.
honestly, I think the most the happiest I got was I did an impression of Mark Wahlberg as if he were playing the role of Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic, and he's basically saying, you know, give me some room on that door. There's plenty of room. Let me get on the door. And I would always, for some reason, I thought it was funny that Mark, in every single impression I would do, calls for his older brother Donnie for help. And so I'd always end every TikTok with Mark being like, Donnie, and Donnie Wahlberg started following me and like wrote on that thing, I'm here, brother, something like that. And so like Jenny McCarthy and Donnie Wahlberg follow me. And Jenny is another one who I remember her sketch show on MTV. I thought was one of the funniest things ever. My brother and I would watch that and laugh our little butts off. So
Yeah,
those two were really cool. Um,
I'm old enough to remember when she was on what was it called? Like it's not.
Singled Out.
Yeah, Singled Out. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember that. But that sketch show that she did, the only thing I remember is when she played like a zit,
Yeah.
and then like somebody like pinches her and then she vomits out. And I'm just like, I was like, she's committed.
Yeah, she's wild. She's wild. It's so funny. But yeah, I mean, like the day that like Amy Schumer followed me, I was like, whoa, I love Amy. I think she's so funny and such an incredible creator and comedian. And yeah, it's cool. There's like a part of me that's like, well, I better keep this stuff up, keep these
Yeah.
people watching.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm just yeah, the name drops is just like wow. I mean, you said Haley Joel Osment earlier. Oh, my friend just casually kind of like, "Oh, okay, we grew up watching him as
Yeah.
the kid from Sixth Sense, and yeah,
And then
that's
Haley and I shot a movie together in June, which
Fade
was
to
really
Black.
what's that?
Was Fade to Black? Is that the one or
No, it's
no?
actually called Totally Ghosted.
Okay, well, is that
Yes.
based on Ghosted, the
No,
short?
based on the short. Yes.
Right.
So my buddy
Okay.
Rob Moore, yeah, wrote it based on his relationship with his wife, who so devastatingly passed away
Mm.
from ovarian cancer, and it's about him. I play his best friend, and I'm trying to get him back out there in the dating scene and trying to get him to get his life back together when it's understandably in shattered because of what's happened in his life. And it's a really funny and heartfelt film. I'm really excited to see how it's turned out, but I'm hearing great things from the director and everything, so that'll be really cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a dramedy a little bit,
Yeah,
heart,
totally.
yeah, tug of the heart strings, and
Yeah.
have some good laughs. Yeah, looking forward to that. Fade to Black, that was the other one I remember reading, and I'm just like, oh, well, that sounds interesting,
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds like you got some stuff on the way there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the TikToks, like what I also love about watching them is you got the cadences down, the dictation, the how everyone speaks, but also like you're pulling like facial muscles that I didn't realize existed on people. Like when you snap into Stallone, that's one of the most hilarious things. You don't even have to say anything. It's just that snap, and I'm just
Yeah.
like immediately I'm like he's already it right there, and then now you just hear Stallone when you kind of do those.
Well,
Um,
it's funny. It's like I was doing Stallone in the sixth grade for my friends, and like there's you can you don't have to write like a big long thing to make something funny. Like when we were in the sixth grade, I would literally do the Stallone face, which is just the kind of like kind
yes.
of a droopy face, and then I'd be like, so this is Sylvester Stallone, and I'd do the face, and then I'd go, and this is Sylvester Stallone trying to open his eyes wider, and I'd just go. and raise my eyebrows, but the eyes stay exactly the same. And like that was a joke that my friends and I would do so much that like our parents must have been like, would you guys please come up with something new?
Yeah. It's pretty great. I mean, you have your Tom Hanks, your Vince Vaughn, your Owen Wilson. Now gosh, I'm forgetting what it was, but you did something with Luke Wilson too. At least shared a scene with him.
Yeah, I
Uh,
did an episode of a Netflix show called No Good Deed with
yeah,
Luke.
yeah.
And again, I felt I'm very fortunate because all of these people, Larry David, Molly Shannon, Luke Wilson, they've all been so gracious and welcoming and generous. And obviously, Stephanie and Anthony and in Twisted Metal. And they're these people who have had incredible careers, and they still, it's like a learning moment for me because they're still so into doing this job. And not only that, but still take the time to make sure that every single person on set feels like they're an important part of the show. And for No Good Deed, I did one scene with Luke, and in between takes, he'd sit with me, he'd talk about how he came up and the things he's doing. He was like, my brother's, we were talking about golf, and he was like, my brother's shooting a golf show in Vancouver right now. You should get on that show. And I was like, yeah, I would love to be on that show, man. Like, but just very normal people who are extremely talented.
Yeah, absolutely. Was he privy to your Owen Wilson impression?
No, and I wasn't gonna bring it up.
Yeah, that'd be a interesting thing, like situation to be in. It's like I got this thing, and it'd be so funny because it's like his brother. But yeah, that's awesome that you still kind of respect that little boundary there. It's like, oh, he's not
Totally.
asking, you know?
But I'm like, I was talking to Luke, and I was like, oh, he does kind of talk like his brother. And when I came home, I was talking to my wife, and I was like, all right, here's my impression of Luke Wilson. What? Why? She was like, oh, I get it. Uh,
Yeah, there's a lot of that in like Legally Blonde, you know.
yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned Anthony and Stephanie. So Twisted Metal, how did that come across your lap? Oh, was that something that agent manager
It's
reached
funny.
out?
I before we knew the writing and acting strikes were imminent, and I one of my buddies, Ken Kirby, was like, "Are you auditioning for this sketch show on Fox?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Well, you should audition for it." And it was this thing called Snake Oil, and so I talked to my manager at the time, and I was like, "Can I get on an audition for this?" And she was like, yeah, I don't, yeah, maybe we'll see. And I was like, let's just do it. And I auditioned for it, and I was offered a role on it. And I thought, this is being produced by Will Arnett's company. I'm going to do a bunch of sketches on the show. I'm going to make an impression, and who knows what it'll lead to. And also, I'll make a little money before we're on strike for God knows how long. And so I did that show. And then about 8 months, 9 months later, my manager sent me the Twisted Metal audition, and she said, actually, Mark Foreman, who works with Will Arnett, uh, asked for you for this role. And I guess I found out that they were having kind of a tough time finding the Dave character. And had already gone to a bunch of people. And since I had worked for Mark and Will's company, he was like, Johnno might be the person for this. So I did it and sent it in. And it always helps to have somebody like Mark saying, I think this might be the guy. And it just worked out. I found out like a week later that I had booked it. And the nice thing is, I thought it was like one episode. And then I looked at the actual audition thing, and it was like 5 to 6 episodes. And I was like, oh God, I'm going to be shooting in Toronto for 2 months. This is going to be a blast. So it just,
Yeah.
like I said, just doing things without being too concerned with what the outcome might be, I feel like is the greatest way to move through this career.
Absolutely. And I heard you say in an interview, like kind of what your I'm using my own language here, but basically, like your goal was to be kind of like that guy where, like, who'd be good for this, Johnno Wilson, and so you had that with Twisted Metal. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Martin has this famous quote where he says, just be so good that you can't be ignored. And I'm like, that's just what I'm trying to do. I want to show people that I'm not only Perry St. James, I'm not only Dave, but I can do a bunch of different stuff. And so I've always looked at people like Steve Carell and Jason Bateman and these guys who can be so incredibly funny and goofy, but also have a vulnerability to them, a groundedness to them, and can also take it to the drama level.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see you in something super dramatic, just something that I haven't seen because everything has like kind of colors of comedy,
Mm-hmm.
humor and stuff. So you mentioned there were some difficulties like finding somebody for Dave. What were they looking for?
The character was written as basically being like a big, strong, intimidating guy. So I don't know exactly what they were doing with the casting, but I think they probably, like, when I first read the scenes, it was like uh I think I was kind of supposed to be imposing to Mike Mitchell, who's a big dude. He's like 6'3". And I was like, well, I'm 5'10". How am I going to scare Mitch, So I think they went the route of looking for guys who are really big and strong and tough. And luckily, I think I just had that thing where, in the audition, the second scene that I did was the scene where I attack Mitch,
Mm.
which is episode 9. And I was like, I'm just gonna have fun with this. And so, the phone is in my ring light, and there's like a moment where I attack Stu, and I was like, I'm just gonna really go for it. So I like actually attacked the ring light onto the ground, and like licked the camera, and was like headbutting the camera and stuff, and then lifted it back up. So it's just that trying to be as creative as possible with still staying true to the material.
Yeah, yeah. That's really interesting. I do wonder if because like we find out in that first scene, the introduction of Dave, that he's a butcher or was a butcher,
Yeah.
and so I thought that it's like, well, we're gonna get this guy who does not look like a butcher.
Yeah.
I remember when that episode dropped, I was like. I was obsessed. I was like, this is like a walking emoji guy. And then,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you remember, I
Yeah.
started doing all these screenshots of all your reactions, especially kind of like that one moment where Mike no, Taj as Mike is revealing to Stu that Dave was a butcher, and like the look on Dave's face is almost like, all right, here it comes. Like, let's. How's he gonna react? I just loved it. I was in, and my co-host Tyler, he knew that I was a big fan of Dave, and so when the turn happened, I was like, well, he did say like this is, like a judgment-free zone up in here. So, you know, uh,
Yeah.
what was your other side that you have to do? You said two?
Yeah, so the first one was my introduction scene when I'm
Okay.
meeting Stu with Mike. And yeah, I mean, listen, they picked great scenes to do the auditions with, because the first one shows, oh, this guy's just like a cool, chill bro. And then the second scene is, oh, this guy is an absolute maniac. And being able to do both of those, I was like, oh, good. It's not like, so often you get auditions and it's like, why am I doing this third scene? It's exactly like the first scene. But uh this audition allowed me to kind of stretch a little bit and show, yeah, look, I can be a psychopath too.
Yeah, it's horrifying. Just a turn, the blood all over Dave's mouth. It's like, yeah, it's a really great scene.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you book Dave, you go up Toronto. what was like the first day on set like? Meeting Liz Vestola, who's costume designer, and was there any discussions on the look of Dave? I feel like, he looked like a what did I say? Like I've told people he looks like a just take something from 30 Rock when they describe John Hamm, it's like a cartoon pilot, and I think I was telling Tiana, I was like, he looks like he should be on Maverick, like but yeah, what was if you guys talked about any other looks, I felt that maybe we wanted to kind of hide Dave in the background a little bit by kind of giving him really normal looking things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, anything you can share.
Yeah, yeah. At first, like the some of the lookbooks that I saw, they were really looking at like 90s
Mm.
style. So at first it was more like bright colors, baggy clothes, like a lot of pictures from like Boy Meets World and stuff like that. And we tried a bunch of different things. I think like at one point I had like an open Hawaiian shirt and baggy jeans, and I was like, these some of these looks are pretty dope. But it's so funny because like I feel like I'm the only one that has no dirt on his face. They like tanned me up. They did my hair was always like perfectly coiffed. I was like, you know, in the makeup trailer next to poor Lisa, who's getting turned into a horrific bug lady. And I was like, I'd walk in, she had already been there for 45 minutes, and they're like, all right, you're good to go, Johnno. I'm like, see you on set. So I feel like I got pretty lucky with the look they gave me.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the first image of the episode 5 where all the drivers are kind of lined up there being addressed by Calypso. And again, very little's out at this point. I don't even think we have names and credits yet.
Yeah.
But I'm just like looking at everybody go, oh, some people that kind of look like knights, and there's an Asian dude up front here. I was like, who's bro back there with the hair? Like, what's his? He's clean. I was like, what's the deal with that guy? Just some regular ass looking dude. That's just kind of how
Yeah.
I approached it. But so like when the introduction came in episode 6, I was just like, oh my god, I love this guy. This is fucking funny. And so,
Yeah. Thanks.
so you're so the introduction. So you get to the hangar. Who are some of the first people you're meeting there?
Well, what was nice was like before I got on set, I had a knock on the door, and sweet angel man Taj
Hmm.
was there, and he was like, "Hey man, I'm Taj. It's really nice to meet you. I was thinking maybe we could come up with, Mitch and I had a handshake last season. I was thinking maybe you and I could come up with a handshake, which we do in episode 6 when we're walking through the hallways." And so he like came up with a handshake, and I was like, all right, this is gonna be a really good day. So it was Taj and Mitch who I knew first, and which was great, and Joe, who plays Sweet Tooth, who is another angel of a man, even though he comes off as being so terrifying in this show, and he's an intimidating force of a dude. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
But like those three guys were just like ready to play, ready to have fun and keep it loose. And Phil Segura was the first director I worked with, and I remember being like, all right, I'm gonna do my first take. I'm gonna improvise stuff, and I'm gonna have fun. And Mitch and I were like, and Taj were improvising a ton in my first like in the first coverage of me. And Phil walked on set after he called cut, and he goes, all right, well, we got that out of our system. However, they used some of that improv in the final edit. So it wasn't I didn't mess up too bad.
So, Phil, can you say his name again? His last name?
Segura.
Segura.
Yeah.
Segura. Not the way it looks.
No. I hope
Yeah.
I'm pronouncing it right. I think I am.
Yeah, I've had everyone else basically like I'm not touching it, So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh
yeah.
man, I'm trying to learn because once we get to our episode breakdowns, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing them all correctly.
Yeah.
And second, you mentioned the improvising. What were some of the ones that you guys improvised in the introduction episode scene?
In the opening episode, they're like little moment. The whole me walking away from Sweet Tooth and noticing him and being like, I love that mask, by the way. We did a bunch of different ones of those, of being just like, it's so cheery, and it's like I'm looking at a dental ad, those were all little improvised moments. And me being like, when Mitch is like, I'm glad you didn't eat my friend, and me being like, hey Mitch, me too, I would have missed out on a pretty damn good friendship. And Mitch is like, yeah, because you would have eaten him. I'm like, yeah, I would have eaten them. Like those little moments were really fun.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's also one of my favorite moments. I talked to Taj about that. I'm just like, that part is so funny because like it just tails off and it's just like they're trying to like, I'm gonna end this. He's like, well, yeah, because you would have eaten my friend. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. So it sounds like, like as long as it's still kind of the spirit of the dialogue, you guys were able to kind of improvise, not go off script too much.
Totally. No, you always want to keep the intention of the scene there, but we had a real laughing fit when in episode 7 I said the up in here like that, and then Midge added in, but he said he wants to drink the gas up in here, and then uh we were just like, we could not keep a straight face saying up in here. you know
It's so good. Was that okay? So I said to Taj, I go, because we're trying to figure out like this accent or whatever it was, and I said Nelly because I was thinking like, it's getting hot in here, but also like DMX party up. Yeah,
it's
was that
DMX.
is DMX? Okay, so that's
DMX.
that's where it came
Grew
from.
up on DMX, love DMX. You put up in here behind any clips of any show and you're going to get jacked up, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean that first album, it came out in high school for me, so you
Dark and Hell is
know.
Hot.
That's it, yeah. And
Yeah.
then and then what, 9 months later or whatever it was, he drops the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So and then the third one before I graduate. So yeah,
Yeah.
literally all throughout high
Prolific.
school. Yeah, for real. Yeah, RIP. And so I'm glad they did Rough Riders anthem in that first episode too.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
yeah.
Totally.
So that really worked. When the you got the script for the first time, what do you remember like some of your reactions to reading some of the things? Because I guess the other question is like, did you have any history or connections to Twisted Metal before you booked the role?
I grew up playing Twisted Metal. I was always Hammerhead. I was
Nice.
always Hammerhead. So when I found out that we were driving Hammerhead, I was like, are you kidding me? This is like, maybe there is something to the universe bringing things to you, but I love Twisted Metal. My brother and me and my buddies in middle school would play it all the time, and it was so dark. It is such a scary video game, and the storylines are so scary and dark. Like, just the fact that you make a wish and it turns out to screw you over is like, whoa, I just beat Minion and my wish is coming true and my life is horrible now. But I loved Twisted Metal. And so to be a part of it was surreal, really.
Yeah. So so were you already familiar with the character of Dave and Mike before?
I was, but I don't think I really understood how they were going to play it out. And when I found out that it was going to be this kind of friendship triangle, I was like, oh, this is so smart. I also just think, I don't know, like I love the idea of guys who are in a murdering car tournament are also really consumed with the fact of like, who's best friend and who's the third wheel, you know?
Right.
I just think that's such a funny take. And MJ and Grant and all of the writers are so smart. And I think this season is incredible because it's scary. There's so much action, there's so much humor, and there's so much heart.
Yeah.
The relationships that Mayhem has with Axel and with John and Quiet are, as the season arc closes up, it really is a phenomenal show. It's a really awesome show, and it has everything you could want in it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also John and Krista,
Yeah,
who John has amnesia, has he basically has no history with Krista. And
yeah,
so we're, kind of watching that develop. And for me personally, I immediately connected with them despite John not really, remembering his sister. And so yeah, it's just written so well that you already kind of like, I buy it. I buy it,
yeah.
Yeah.
The desire to be accepted and loved is one of the most powerful things that humans experience, and you see it in so many of the characters in this season, and I think that's what a part of what makes it so strong. And then you
Yeah.
have a cannibal being a really chill dude
Yeah,
who's in
we're not judging.
recovery.
Yeah. So what do you, in your mind, how do you think Dave perceives Stu?
I think that Dave has really tried. He's gone through some sort of personal program to get rid of his demons. He's trying to be the best friend he can to Mike. And Mike has talked about his relationship with Stu and how at their core, they're really good friends. And so I think Dave really does want them to be the three Bromigos. I think he does. And I think at every stage, if and some of this stuff we may have lost in the show, but I think especially at the beginning, there was more of Stu being kind of hating Dave and giving him that vibe like to his face. And as Dave, I was like, I'm killing this guy with kindness. That's all. I'm going to kill this guy with kindness and bring him around. And is very soon, we're going to be the three musketeers,
Right.
um, which is so sad that when they're just about to get there, it all falls apart.
Right. Yeah, it's just that, I guess the finger under the pillow and that little bit of the tasting the blood in
Yeah.
episode 8 there.
No good deed
Um,
goes unpunished. I helped Axel get through his gas addiction, and then I get the splatter on my face, and I have the taste for blood all over again. I can't
that's
fight it.
it. Yeah, yeah. So when you're doing the scene with Taj and Mitch, and kind of doing coverages and stuff like that, are you doing like the same facial reactions at like these different points when it keeps like cutting to you and stuff?
No, I what I try to do is make as many different choices as I can so that in the edit, like I was saying earlier, they have choices. And I saw this thing about American Psycho where the director, when Willem Dafoe is coming in to uh, ask questions and interrogate Christian Bale, he had him do it three ways. He had him do it where he's very suspicious of Christian Bale's character, Patrick Bateman. Then he had him come in and have him do it like, this guy didn't do it. I'm just going to ask him questions. And then he did it again where I'm going to ask this guy's questions and I'm pretty positive he's the one that did it. And so if you watch that scene, you can see that he used different moments from each take, and it gives this vibe of, as an audience watching it, we're like, what is this dude's angle? Does he suspect him? Does he not? He's going so in and out all these ways. And that creates, I don't know if you've seen the movie, but it like, we learn that so much is in Patrick Bateman's head that like we're seeing different moments that maybe he's reading too far into, maybe he's not, maybe we as the audience are reading too far into, maybe there's nothing to worry about. So whenever I'm doing a scene, I try to give different takes so that the pros who are editing and directing can say, let's use this clip from this part and this clip from this part and this clip from this part. So yeah. And Mitch and Taj and Joe are such great scene partners that they do the same thing. And that makes my reactions different,
Yeah. Hey, what about the part where Dave assists Mike to show like the big cut on the back? You know, like I was telling Taj, I go, it seems like it's almost routine that they've done this before. Like, hey, look, hey, I'm showing my back now. You're the assistant. You know, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. I love that. It was just so natural. You know, like.
Yeah, I think there were probably times when Mike or Taj playing Mike tried to do it on his own, and I realized that it was too hard. So now when he shows people, I always help him out.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds like you well, I guess I was about to make this comment, but this would actually just be a good question. But did MJ, you mentioned Grant, you know, Sean Diston even, like did anybody kind of give you some more backstory on Dave, or did you create your own based off the things you already given in the script?
And they give those guys are all such great writers that they give you all the tools you need, and then it's kind of just up to you to fill in like the little things that are going to make you the best version of the character. So you know, you don't have to do too much work when you have those guys creating the character for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's I mean they're all they know the world so well
Yeah.
already, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am kind of wondering what some of the early visions of Dave was like, you know, prior to casting you, but it is a perfect choice. Um
Thanks.
Let's see. So we talked about episode six. No, we didn't talk about episode six. Six is when you guys get on the bus and get to the school. Not a lot go in there, but you know, if you guys are listening to the podcast, you guys heard the bumper at the beginning there. You know, Johnno doing the little Dave line. But can you talk about filming the lunch line scene with Mike Mitchell?
That scene, I was maybe the most nervous about that scene because I am supposed to, the turn is that I'm welcome. I want him to be part of the crew. But the beginning is that I am supposed to be this intimidating dude. And I'm like looking up at Mitch. And so I was like, I hope this comes off as though Mitch is actually scared. And Mitch is like, in real life, he's just such a sweetheart that he kind of gave me the look of like, oh, is Dave gonna eat me right now? So that was really helpful. But yeah, I mean, Mitch is just the best. He's so fun to be a scene partner with, and we've become such great friends. That he really helped me through that. Helped to make me feel like I was being scary to him.
Do you remember what it says in the script when Dave says, "I freaking love it," because when we're watching it, the way it's framed, you know, like you have to have Dave pop his head,
Yeah,
you know, from being obscured by Stu. Can you talk about that part there?
I don't really remember exactly what it said in the script, but I do remember it was saying like that when I said I know what you're doing. It was like I think it said like terrifying. He's
Mm.
terrifying. And then it was just like he completely turns. He's completely chill, fun guy again. So it was really just like hitting that turn. But I also remember like we're the thing about acting that I found when I first started acting that was so difficult is it's like, all right, in this scene, you're just picking up this glass when you hit this line and then you hit that mark. And I was like, whoa, the technical stuff can be very difficult to like stay in the character and also accomplish all the technical stuff for the cameras and everything. But um, so yeah, they wanted to make sure that I was kind of out of frame behind Mitch so that when I come in, it's the reveal of like, hey, he's not mad. He's having fun.
Blocking, that's the word. I had to
The
think about
blocking,
that.
yes.
There
Yeah.
we go. Yeah, that's why I love doing these interviews because it's kind of like film school for myself. You know,
Mm-hmm.
getting to learn the ins and outs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, Now, in episode seven, we kind of have this. I'm trying to remember it. There's this. Everyone's kind of like souping up their cars, getting
Yeah.
ready like for the next thing, and everyone's kind of going around sharing their wishes. Were you told what Dave might wish for, or do you have an idea what Dave might wish?
No, I mean,
I know what he says, but you know.
yeah, no, I think that uh, if I were to guess what Dave's wish was going to be, I'd say it would probably be something like I hope when we finish this tournament, everybody gets to live and we all become best friends, and we, tell stories about our times here when we're all sitting in rocking chairs in the shared home that we live in, having a nice beer at the end of the night. But I truly didn't know what was going to happen to Dave. Uh, I mean, I knew that we were going to have this fight and everything, but I truly did not put together me saying I don't want to be on the hook and ending up on a hook. I really
Right.
did not put that together until I'm like watching the show and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was Andre De Kim who plays Chucky, is
Yeah,
Chucky, right?
Floop,
Yeah, Chucky Floop,
Chucky
yeah.
Floop.
Because I always like I used to say like Charlie, but it's like the Charlie Puth thing and Chucky Floop, and it kind of rhymes. But either way, yeah, because when he wishes to fly, then he goes out the window.
Yeah,
I was all like, oh, hey, he kind of got his wish. Somebody else pointed out that Dave, didn't want to be on the hook for it, on the hook, and that's when I started paying attention.
yeah,
So that's why I did enjoy kind of like the weekly drops, because I did have like other viewers, they saw the interviews and they're like, oh, this would be a guy to talk with. And so people were like, hey, do you mind talking to us about it? I'm like, sure. They go, are you catching some of the wishes coming true? I'm like, no, I mean, like the Chucky one, but like I was saying that in jest. They're like, well,
yeah,
no, but Dave now, Dave, he hooked with. I'm just like, oh. And then
yeah.
frostbite, I want to feel warmth, and
It
so
burns.
it burns, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So and then mayhem, obviously, wanted to find a place where she can belong. So yeah, all of it ended up manifesting in episode the intervention. You
Yes.
kind of mentioned it a little bit about that. Do you remember any of the other parts that were improvised other than the up in here?
We actually had a thing that was cut that was so fun, and I think it was really just cut for time, but the scene actually started with me and Taj, and we're meditating, and Stu comes in and he's like, "You guys, what are you guys doing?" And he's standing near like an air hockey table, and I walk up, and then Stu and I play air hockey together, and I just work him very easily. And Mitch was talking about, God, I wish I could remember, but he was talking about like uh being in the jungle and having to fight your way through, and I said something like, well, yeah, I'm kind of the lion in the jungle, and so you better be careful. And Mitch said something like, oh yeah, well, I'm like a fox. And I was like, what are you talking, there are no foxes in the jungle. So that whole day, our director Ian was really having fun with some of that stuff, which was a blast because we were just in that room the whole day, and he was really encouraging a lot of the improvising. And there was another moment where Ian came over to me, and I had a line with Axel where I say something like, the what you this is all a result of what happened with Zimu. And I remember Ian was like, Johnno, can you just, let's, for this take, when you say Zimu, say it like Trump says China. And I was like, okay. So I was saying, like, Axel, this is all a result of your experience with Zimu. And so, like, I mean, we just had such a blast that day on set, and they used some of it, and they obviously couldn't use other parts of it because I think we were getting like, we were starting to have too much fun with the improv and getting a little away from what they needed for the actual episode.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would have been amazing. Little, yeah, call back to episode three.
Yeah,
Another great character, and just a super hilarious scene. And
that seems
uh
incredible.
yeah, and also like his dying words, just so funny, and it sounds like they added
So
that
funny.
right there at
So
the
funny.
end. One of my favorite episodes. It's all the episodes are great, but I keep revisiting episode 9. You shared it. Thank you for that. But can you talk about the oneer? It's really great. Everybody's kind of coming out from their rooms, and the camera's moving in all these different hallways. And then also like I just love the interaction between Dave and Stu, and like how you do like the two-hand point to like, hey Stu, and he's like, oh yeah, plum. He's like plum, almost as if, and then Stu reads it as like he doesn't he doesn't know what a plum is. Like, like the fruit's like, I got it. I love all of that.
That those little bits at the end were also improvised with me and Mitch about him being like the fruit, and I'm like, yeah, I got it. Like those little things are little add-ins, but yeah, that one was dope. And again, like Birdie, who directed that episode, who's phenomenal, like all the directors, had that idea. And you think a oneer like that can take a lot. Everybody needs to come out at the exact right time. We're behind doors, so we don't necessarily see when the camera moves by. It like really is about everybody's timing. And when you have whatever it was, like 10 people in that scene, and everybody was so on point, that I feel like we maybe did like 3 takes of that. Like I think we did that so fast, and everyone in this cast is so talented that you were never waiting on anybody. Everybody always had their shit together. It was like, yeah, it was a dream. I'm like, it sucks that so many of us died, because I would give anything to spend 2 months in Toronto with that same crew every single year of my life.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
living vicariously through all your guys' pictures and hearing
Yeah.
your guys' stories. That's interesting because I believe Spencer, who was DP, I believe he commented on that post and said he didn't remember it taking long, but I think Birdie actually answered and said 7. And
Oh,
so
really?
that's what she said, and maybe she misremembered, but she also shared it, but she commented she said 7. I was like, huh, okay. But maybe she's also counting like run-throughs.
Rehearsals or yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, maybe, but even if it was 7, like it wasn't taking too much time. I mean,
yeah,
for a show when like so many of us, there were obviously some long days because so many of us were in so many scenes. Even if we didn't have uh lines, we had to be seen in the background doing stuff. And still they like really moved, everybody really moved through stuff quickly and efficiently, and that doesn't always happen on a set. um
right.
so it always felt like we were moving fast. And maybe another reason why it felt like it was moving fast is because in between takes, everybody's so funny and everybody's like making jokes and we're all hanging out, and it's like time flies when you're having fun. It's true.
Yeah, 100%. You talked about like having to do things in the background. There's a lot of that in the dance scene, the
Yeah.
dancing, the proms moments. Also, Dave to Calypso, improvised or that on paper?
Improvised. That whole scene, I think everything everyone said in that scene was improvised. And I think it was Sean Diston that was like, tell him that he's a phenomenal storyteller. And I was like, okay. And then it was kind of a situation that it was really fun, because I think MJ and all those guys were just like, all right, everybody's going to come up and get your hand cut and put it on the tree. Say whatever you want. So he was kind of like, let's just see what they come up with. And everybody had something funny. I mean, Mitch with the splinter, totally improvised. And him like later saying, the splinter is still there, totally improvised. Like, so we were like all standing, and then when he would call up each person, we would all have to like hold back our laughter because everyone was coming up with funny stuff.
Right, and Patty, she like hisses. I think she
She was
hisses.
like,
Yeah, and
yeah.
yeah, right. And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
not too dissimilar from like when we see her talk to like Quiet in episode 5, she said like fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
Um Now Taj mentioned that you guys went into like a little room to kind of rehearse your guys' dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk about like that and kind of working with a choreographer? I wasn't even sure if that was even necessary to kind of come in and work with you guys.
Yeah. We had like 2 choreographers who were basically like, they had an idea of what they wanted us to do, and then they were like, we were kind of like figuring it out in the moment. So we would do these moves, and then they'd be like, all right, maybe we just go from this to this, and then you do the shoulders, and then we'll do a turn and all that. And I think it was like a 3 minute dance, and they like then like would cut stuff down, see like what the most like efficient moves were, and they would film it. And then so Taj and I would like meet up and do it together. And then I'd be in my room. You know, my wife is a phenomenal dancer and singer, and she, you know, did Broadway and everything. And I'd be like, all right, can you watch these moves? Because she was with us for like 3 weeks. And I was like, honestly, I had no idea how hard choreographed dancing is when I'm doing these like not difficult moves, but still having a tough time doing them, and like the counts and everything. Like that stuff is difficult.
Oh,
Uh,
sure. And you have like the dress shoes on too. That doesn't make
yeah,
it easier.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, let me see. What about the photo booth? Any of those lines improvised? The come, will
Yeah.
come.
Yeah. I mean, like we tried stuff out too, but you know, just like the little stuff about like, get in here, put your butt towards me, like all that kind of stuff was improvised in the moment. And the way we like took the pictures was improvised, and Mitch being like, let's change hats and stuff like that. But you know, that's another moment that just comes off as being, it's like so effective when you see people finally get to the point you've been hoping they're going to get to for the whole season, and right after that it falls apart. And you know, Birdie did a great job at creating that high to low situation in that episode.
Are we blaming it on Stu? You know, like Stu had the record scratch moment of the evening where he's like, these are people fingers."
I know, and I know Mike is like Taj. It's like, you know, you can't say that to someone in recovery, but really, I'm like, Dave, get some thicker skin. You know,
Yeah,
maybe have a teaching moment to Stu instead of having a hissy fit and going to eat Frostbite's leg.
yeah, it could have been that little taste of blood previously, or the little
True.
finger under the pillow. You know, it
And he
could be
probably
a.
thought, I'm not, you know, these people are already dead. I'm just, you know, but when you're sneaking off and doing stuff you know you shouldn't be doing, you're probably in trouble.
It might have been okay. Like Stu's heart was in the right spot. Like, let me own up to this and go talk to him. Had he,
Yeah.
if we just let Dave, feast on that leg, maybe the everyone still would have been okay, minus that smoke there.
Yeah.
Uh,
And also
the
Stu says to him, like, you're not yourself right now. You know, Mike and I can help you, but Dave's too far gone.
Yeah, into the shower or the locker room there.
Yeah.
Now, what was it like filming like the altercation between the two? I don't know how much of it was like a stunt. I'm sure like when like Mitch like falls to the ground, but yeah, how much of that are you guys actually doing?
The only thing that was our stunt guy was Mitch being thrown over the bench there. The rest of it was all me and Mitch. So we choreographed all of that too, and worked on that with the stunt team, who were phenomenal. Um, and that was so fun. That was so fun. That was Birdie's. I think that was Birdie's like first day.
Wow.
So it was the first thing Mitch and I shot with her. Um,
Yeah.
and we were both soaked with sweat by the end of that. Uh, and yeah, it was really fun. And again, like I had to do some ADR after the fact on that scene. And I remember being like, please let this scene ring true and be really scary and fun. And when I got to see it, I was like, oh yes, it's really cool.
It's done so well. Speaking of well, you guys have like a little trial for Stu near the well.
Yes.
That was you wheeled in.
Yes.
And was that your butt? Because
That
there's
was
another.
those were my butt cheeks. They were saying, you know, I was actually not supposed to shoot that episode because they were like, we're either going to use a fake butt, or we'll use like a stunt guy. And Mitch, God bless him, was like, hey, Johnno, I'm being asked like what my preference would be to put my face on a butt. And I was kind of like, I'd rather do a fake butt. And then if we're going to we need a real butt for it to look real. to be honest, I'd rather put my face in Johnno's butt, because he's my friend. He already licked my foot than a stranger's butt. And he was like, would you be down to do it? And I was like, stay here for an extra week? Hell yeah. So the intimacy coordinator coordinated everything and was sending me texts being like, you're comfortable with Mitch putting his face directly on your buttocks? And I was like, I am totally good with that. Don't worry about it. So yeah, that was my last week on set. It was actually my 40th birthday, and I celebrated by having Mitch put his face on my butt cheeks.
Wow. Okay. So I was wondering about it because I was like, oh, Mitch makes contact. I go, that's got to be like a fake butt. They must have like swapped it out at some point. So that was
No,
all you.
that was all me. And there were a
Yeah.
couple takes where, uh, Anthony Kerrigan, another extremely talented, wonderful human being, pulled my pants down so quick that I could feel my butt cheeks shaking, and it would make me laugh. And then when I would laugh, my butt cheeks would still shake, and Birdie would like yell from the back, Johnno, you gotta stop laughing. Your cheeks are shaking too much.
Yeah, it just it shook just right. I'm just like for me, I'm just like, that's not real. That's good. They must have done something to make it really shake. Like this
No,
is yeah,
it was
that's amazing.
Mitch's foot that I licked, and it was my butt that he put his face in.
Fantastic. Now do you get like a nudity rider for exposing your
Uh,
rear?
I'm
No.
sure I did. I mean, they did,
Oh.
everything was like above board, but yeah, you have to, like, you talk to the intimacy coordinator, you say that you're comfortable with it, and you agree to literally every little moment that's going to happen. And then they do like a closed set. So anybody that doesn't have to be on set isn't there. Um, and I was like, obviously nervous about just having my pants down all day. And then, like, after the first time we did it, I was like, oh, this is like nothing. You don't have to wheel me back behind the curtain. I can just chill here with the guys, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Mackie and Richard already did it previously,
That's
so
right.
your turn. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Now,
Richard and I talked about it. Yeah.
you mentioned your 40th birthday. It was a surprise birthday. It looked like.
It was so, honestly, I've never had a surprise birthday. And, it was just me and Mitch and Taj leaving at the end of the day. And it was pretty late. And Mitch was like, hey, I mean, do you want to just like go grab a beer to celebrate? And the previous day, October 6th, is Mitch's birthday. So
Oh,
I was like, yeah, let's like celebrate both of our birthdays. Let's just grab a quick beer and then head to bed. It's like been a long day. And so Mitch was like, oh, I'm gonna check with Taj and see if he can meet us too. And I was like, great. And Taj was like, I don't think I can. And I was like, oh, all right. And then he was like, oh, let me text like Lisa, and I think Patty's just landing or something. And both of them were like, oh no, I can't. And I was like, all right, thanks a lot, guys. Like, we're just asking to have one drink. And then Mitch was like, let's try this new place. And we went walking around the corner. And when we came in, I was truly so surprised. Everybody was there. They had a butt cake for me. It was like the sweetest thing. Everybody has long days. They're doing so much. And for them to do that, like, it truly meant the world to me. It was a really, really great night. And then, like, Lisa and Mitch and Taj and I went out pretty late after that too. Like, we just went out on the town together. It was like a amazing last night on this show.
yeah. These surprise parties, they're hard to pull off because like I would be a guy who'd be like, well, let's see if we can invite such and such. So it looks like you guys were crossing all the T's and dotting the I's. 'Cause we
Yeah.
we did a surprise party for a buddy, and when upon arrival, he was surprised as all get out, but he was just like, "Man, I was so bummed out. Everyone said they had plans and they couldn't make it."
I
And
know, that's
so,
what they did. They really messed with me. Like, I wasn't gonna make a big deal about my birthday. And then when Mitch was like, does anyone want to have a beer with Johnno? Everyone was like, no. And I was like, what the hell? And then when I walked in, like, everybody was there. It was so sweet. It was so sweet.
yeah, it really was. My excuse me, my 40th. We celebrated karaoke at
Nice.
a really nice restaurant and stuff like that. I don't think you guys did it that night, but I believe there's It's not a video, but I did see a picture. I believe you and Mitch, you could have just been the hype man. I don't know. But somebody was singing Free Falling
We sang Free
karaoke.
Falling. We also sang Tonight by the Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh,
That was our
nice.
big one. Uh it was pretty incredible doing karaoke with everybody because I was like, oh, everybody also has great voices. Good
Right.
God. Michael
Yeah,
Shaw, that guy has some pipes, man.
he does. He does.
Yeah.
And Taj's first time, and he still went
Not,
through with it.
oh my God. Yeah, nobody was like, a couple of us were there early and we were like, all right, the rule is whoever, when you show up, you have to do a song. And not one person did that thing where it was like, nah, I really don't want to. Everyone was like, all right, put on whatever, you know?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
As we get ready to wrap up, if there's any other stories you can share from the set, we don't want to embarrass anybody or get anyone in trouble. Just some fun things for the viewers or the listeners at home. Just yeah, more stories of like things you guys did around Toronto. But yeah, just anything you willing to share.
Yeah, we really, I think the greatest thing was that everybody is so curious and interested, and there was always something to do every single night. And the group was like, everybody got along so well. We were just out with each other all the time, and sharing not just the experience of being on set, but also the experience of Toronto and all the amazing food they have there. And um it was just, honestly, I don't know if there's anything specific. I think it was just like I felt so blessed that uh we all got to spend so much quality time with each other. And my wife, who was my fiance at the time, stayed for 3 weeks, and she was so welcomed in, like she was on the show. And we all really made like friends for life in the few months we were in Toronto. And I don't think you can say that about a lot of jobs. So I feel really lucky to have been a part of this cast.